Shofar. Father, we give you thanks and glory for all that you do for us. Keep us humble, obedient to your word. Let those who want to serve the Lord with an righteous heart. Let us continue to walk through the path of righteousness for your name's sake. As we continue to move and as we continue to grow and as we continue to prosper in Yeshua, we give him all the glory and praise. And we thank him for allowing us to be a part of his wonderful ministry. Amen.
Our opening scripture today will be read from Psalm 61, verses 1 through 5. Hear my cry, O Ahai, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter for me, and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, Selah. For thou, O Ahai, hast heard my vows. Thou hast given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. That was Psalm 61, verses 1 through 5. And we ask that the Most High add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and the understanding of his word in this ministry. We will now have our credo, read from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Shema Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power.
Shema
Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Shema Yasharala Ahaya, Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. We will now have our praise and worship for our Abba Ahaya, his son Yeshua, and Waruach, the Holy Spirit.
Abba Nawa Shabbat Shemayim Kodash Hayashemka Ahaya Malak Waka Baba'ah Ratizawan Kahaya Aisha Baratizah Kawan Haya Bashemayim Nathanawa Lahom Kayawan Wasalam Nawa Kawawam Nawa Kasalam Nawa Kawawam Nawa Wala Goodbye Nawa. Shemayim Kodash Hayashemka Ahaya Malak Waka Ratazam Kahaya Asha Kuwa haya bashumayu napananawa lahong kaya wasalat nawa kawawat nawa kasalat nawa kawawakin nawa wala babayin nawa banasayawan above Hawa shai nawa man rai kaya laka hamala wahala wahata para waawalonyam
Revelations 15:3-4. Great and marvelous are your words, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways, O King of the saints. Who shall not fear you? Oh Lord, and glorify your name. For you, Lord, are holy. For all nations shall come and worship before thee. For your judgments have been manifested. open to you. You are my food, accept me, Father. You are my rest. Give me incomprehensible perfection. Grant me your mercy, Father. All the angels and the people have to bow down to you, Father. Yes. I love you. Even the evil rulers have to bow down to you, Father. Father, you're so amazing. I can't say it enough. Yes. And you're worthy of the praise. Yes.
Gotta build my house up, gotta store my food up, gotta pack my things up. Gotta train my children to stay resilient when they face the resistance. Gotta fix my attitude, that's what I have to do. Gonna pray inside, and you don't die before you realize.
You gotta stay focused on seeking that holy throne, golden streets, loving the air, righteous aroma strong. This is the path we own, home tag along, running till the ending, never drop a tone. The well done, the prize I keep my eyes on. See, blinking closer to sleeping, and you thinking I'd be permanently close in seconds over beef and parmesan. All trying to live, but not by bread alone. Everything I give, hope it right my wrong. Spirit habit, I ain't stone. Arabian sandalwood compliment my cologne. Royal tears and I DNA, that's why the glow brighter, the flow's tighter. We as fighters battle, not with flesh and blood, but our power from way higher. It's the choices that we make every day to be counted with the righteous, not destroyed with the faith. The Father, He know my faith, hope it's not too late to reach those gates. When I pray, I ask for grace for me and my nation's sake. Lost in our world, so that we can make it home. Gotta come together, we won't make it on our own. Just some of the thoughts I be thinking while I don't. Better hear us now, in a moment we'll be gone.
Gotta build my house up, gotta store my food up, gotta pack my things up. Gotta train my children to stay resilient when they face the resistance. Gotta fix my attitude, that's what I have to do. Gonna pray inside, and you don't die before you realize.
They don't want the vision, they don't want to see, they don't want to listen, they just want to speak. I got this wisdom trying to feed the sheep, but they don't want to eat the reason they just want to sleep. So whoever don't receive the gospel and prophecies, don't waste your time trying to plead to shake the dust off your feet. Prepare your mind for these times to get worse and keep dropping for the good verse. When the first to be last and last to be first. The most I gave me breath of life, so yeah, today I got time. Gotta keep storing treasures up, so I'ma stay on my grind. I'm sick and tired of Babylon, the kingdom stay on my mind. Can't let my seeds straight from the shoot, so I stay on their behind. It's fair to rise, ain't nobody got time for that. All these new doctors, ain't nobody got time for that. Confused, super bruised, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm scared to make a choice, do your favor, holla back, holla back.
Gotta build my house up, gotta store my food up, gotta pack my things up. Gotta train my children to stay resilient when they face the resistance. Gotta fix my attitude,
world is only full of you. 2 Ezra 8:1. The Most High made this world for the sake of men. The world to come for the sake of a few. Yeah.
The next world is only for you, and I wanna be there, be there. The kind of people that's supposed to go is very rare, it's very rare. The next world is only for you, and I wanna be there, be there. Only a few that's gonna be saved when you separate the wheat from the tail. That's right. People play the rush of the leg with your eyes, they don't feel you. No, they wanna play with this word. They don't need to hear you. They don't need to hear you. But I wanna be in a world to come, where there's peace, where there's joy, and a whole lot of love. And when you open up paradise, I wanna dance the tree of life. I wanna be with all them righteous souls that chose to do right. The next world is only for you, and I wanna be there, be there. The kind of people that's precious to go, it's very rare, it's very rare. The next world is only for you, and I wanna be there, be there. Only a few that's gonna be saved when you separate the wheat from the tail. Chilling with the shy and the little children, hey. I wanna be nurtured in your love. I will remember my pilgrimage. That's why I follow down understanding and devour wisdom. Cause that new world is where I wanna be. That holy kingdom. Where no sin will ever come to mind. Immortality. A peaceful world with music playing all the time. The next world is only for you. And I wanna be there, be there. The kind of people that's precious to go, it's very rare, it's very rare. The next world is only for you, and I wanna be there, I wanna be there. Only a few that's gonna be saved, and separate the wheat from the tail.
So to me, I think it's going to make the next world.
That's what you was gonna say.
Next world is separate the wheat from the tail. Only a few that's gonna be saved. Everybody wanna make it, and I wanna be there. The kind of people that's precious to go, it's very rare, it's very rare. Next one is only for you, and I wanna be there, I wanna be there. Only a few that's gonna
Matthew 13:37-43. He that soweth the good seed, son of man, the field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked. The enemy that sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of this world, and the reapers are the angels. As this world, the tares are gathered and burnt in the fire, so shall it be at the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them that do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Ecclesiastes 12:13, the whole duty of man, that we keep these commandments. Yeah. You don't even know what the law says. You put that shit down, just to keep it grounded like memory that all it is a higher bodily instructions, like a manual to a merchandise, show you how to function. Keep it mentally clean, spiritually clean. Keep the heavens smiling down on you, show you how to eat. Show you how to live a life free of disease. So it's a rap if you got that hunger pig in a black eyed peas. That meat full of bacteria plus pig eat his own fat. Never sweat, never grow up. How your heart show up, struggling to pump your blood. These movies have to go up, you know I get go up. But excuses. You got too many reasons why you don't want to do it. And then we wonder why the Father let the predicaments worse. He ain't giving no passes, and you got no respect for person. Get on your dash, it's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your grace on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash, get on your dash. It's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your grace on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash. 1 John 2:4, any man say he know me and keep not my commandments is a liar and a thief. We love looking how nobody's perfect. Well, 2 Timothy 3, feels that logic perfect. Examine verse 17, that the man of the Most High be made perfect is what I mean. So if we raised in the Bible quiet, examine it all the ways, because I am God. Let them not to give your reward, chop them up with a sword. Yeah, philosophy sounds good, that's just saying when he's bored. See, these scriptures is the brain and Jim strike to see your brain. If you don't apply what you learn, you just don't get beat up. All of your emotions mad, feeling you've been bad. Just be ready for the next occurrence, correct your ass. It's the path on the righteousness, you can call it Joshua. I'm not your popcorn. Judgment time to climb that ladder. We that took the nation scattered. Here was the made for us. Now we're higher the special look the fire and space for us. Get on your dash, it's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash, get on your dash. It's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash. Matthew 5:18, the heaven and earth pass. As long as you see heaven and earth, the law is in effect. 2 Corinthians 9:18, and now when I prepared the world, which was not yet made, even for them that dwell and now live, no man spake against me. To them everyone obeyed. But now the methods of them which are created in this world that is made are corrupt by a perpetual seed, and by a law which is unsearchable rid themselves. So I considered the world, and behold, there was peril because of the devices that were come into. And I saw, and I spared it greatly, and have kept the grape of the cluster in the grape of the great people, that the multitude perish, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept, and my plant for the great labor. Now I made it. Get on your dash, it's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash, get on your dash. It's time to gather. Strike with a rock, it doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash, get on your dash. It's time to gather. Strike with a rock. It doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash, get on your dash. It's time to gather. Strike with a rock. It doesn't matter. Don't waste your days on that ginger or trash. Get on your dash, get on your dash. Change is like marijuana. You clean us. Whatever Hebrew you're a shot. Brightness. Your righteousness, your strength path. That's your Joshua.
I can see the road, paved in gold. I can see the shiner in his royal robe. I can see a higher in all the glory. I can see the angels singing holy, holy. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow. Cause Jerusalem is where I belong. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow. Cause Jerusalem is where I belong. No more tears, no more pain, no more stressing, nothing but joy. I can hear the saints singing all praises. I hear the trumpets blowing, my kingdom's coming, coming. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow, tomorrow. 'Cause Jerusalem is where I belong. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow, tomorrow. 'Cause Jerusalem is where I belong. Say home, say home, say home, say home, say home, say home, say home. My rock is my savior, my rock is my savior, my rock is my savior, my rock is my savior. Singing holy, holy. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow, tomorrow. 'Cause Jerusalem is where I belong. I'm going home tomorrow.
Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping your commandments.
I want to show my people how to get
Said
back
I'm
to
walking
you
in
too.
the fruits and keeping your commandments.
This is how we do it.
Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments.
Walking in the fruits of the spirit.
Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping your commandments. I'm focused on the place. I'm to get back to my heavenly Father and the Son of Man. And this is all I do. I got the scriptures laid out. Hey, 'cause when it's time to go, I'm ready to make a move. I'm bringing the commandments down to observe them every day. And the fruits of the Spirit is always in my face. I got them hanging on the front door and the wall. It's my spiritual place to get back to you. So I won't fall. I need place to get back to you. And doing whatever I got to do. I'm making plans to get back to you. Hey, walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments. It's what I do. Sing how to keep your feast days and chilling on the Shabbat. We be chilling. And reading Galatians every day so I can know how to walk in the spirit. Just keep my words playing through my house all the time to absorb all that wisdom in my subconscious mind. I'm writing the commandments down to observe them every day. And the fruits of the spirit is always in my face. I got them hanging on the front door and the wall. It's my spiritual place to get back there, so I won't fall. Place to get back to the place. Yeah, whatever I got to do, whatever I got to do, I'm making plans to get back to you. Yeah. Walking in the fruits, walking in the keeping the commandments. It's what I do, what I do.
Walking in the fruits of the
Said
spirit.
I'm keeping your commandments,
Most High
trying
commandments.
to get back to you.
That's the only plan.
Heavenly
Right
Father.
here. You want to get back to the Most High?
Oh,
That's how
I
you do it right here.
wanna see the Son of
You know what I'm
Man
saying? He said,
shine.
whoever loves him should keep his commandments.
Oh,
And the real
why?
what I'm
Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments. Ooh.
saying? Yeah.
Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments. Said I'm walking in the fruits. Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments. And I'm keeping your commandments. Said I'm walking in the fruits and keeping the commandments. All I do is to pray. That's my way. And doing whatever I got to do. Whatever I gotta do. I'm making plans to get back to you. I'm gonna get back to you. Walking in the fruit. Walking in the fruit. Yeah. It's what I
song
playing
out.
out. I know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get back to my head. You know what I'm saying? The same come down. I want to be wherever he is.
All right, so we give all the glory and praise to Ahaya, Yeshaya, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you for joining us on live stream. Peace to the 12 tribes that are scattered throughout the four corners, and shalom to those who have Gentile blood but serve Ahaya, so you have the surname of Israel.
That's right.
Today we're going to talk about the wilderness, we're going to talk about the 1,000 years, and we're going to talk about the kingdom. We're going to connect the wilderness to the kingdom. We continue to go through these lessons to get us prepared for the wilderness and to get us prepared for the kingdom itself.
Yeah.
And what does the Bible say about that? Let's just jump right now. Luke 6:42. I'm sorry, Luke 9. Luke 9:62. And let's read that. Luke 9:62.
Luke chapter 9, verse 62. And Yeshaya said unto him, no man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the malakwa of Iowa.
So no man looking back is fit for the kingdom of Ahaya. You can't look back. You can't look at your old life and want to do it again. A person who does that is not fit for the kingdom and will not make it to the kingdom, right? So our holy days, Purim is next week, the 13th and the 14th. We will have our lesson on the 13th on Purim, and on the 14th, virtuous women. That's Purim. That's our next holy day. After that comes the Passover. The Passover is March 13th and the 14th. We will have lessons on both days. On the Passover, for those who are traveling, make sure that you remove the leaven out of your homes. Our spring holy day, we go from the winter to the spring. That's also on the Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread. Following the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread is the 15th through the 21st. Our lesson on the 15th, of course, will be on the unleavened bread. That's a double Shabbat, and then we have another double Shabbat after that with the Feast of First Fruits. That is March the 22nd. A lot of feast days in March, a lot of feast days and holy days in the month of September. Our Hebrew language classes is Wednesday at 9 p.m. Our Thursday night Bible lessons will be Thursday, of course, at 9 p.m. Our lessons of life, 9 p.m. And our lessons are geared right now towards discerning of spirits. Now, starting the first Friday of each month, we have been granted to preach Father's word. So we're going to preach the first Friday of each and every month. You can get a preview of that with our Thursday night lesson that we preached on with the 7 spirits.
All right, then.
Okay.
7 locks.
7 locks of Samson. Right? So Friday nights is our lesson of life. And every first Friday, we're going to set that aside so we can preach a message. And get back to what we used to do when we first started the ministry. We would preach, we would teach, heal, deliver, all that. Get back to it because we lost it. 100 Ways of Yeshaya, our summer lesson. Our summer Shabbat lessons will be the 100 Ways of Yeshaya, and we will return to the streets this summer. We will return to the streets this summer. It's time to get back what we were doing. It's time to get back what we were doing. Right? So all praises to the Father. Let's get to the lesson. People get the idea that the Bible is not about us as a people. People think that, a lot of people think that the Bible is not pertaining to us, right? But Yeshaya in Deuteronomy 28 said that we would be cursed or blessed. He said that. But he also gave us a passage in the Bible that if we endure Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And we're going to see that towards the end of this lesson. We, as Israelites, were supposed to teach everybody. But we failed those lessons. We failed as a nation. We failed to teach the people the ways of Yeshaya. We failed to teach the people the ways of Ahia. When a Gentile misbehaves, he get a slap on the hand. But when you as Israel fail or misbehave, you get 10 to 20 in a federal prison.
Life.
We are under a curse, and we must understand that we are under a curse.
Yes, we are.
Even those who are serving Ahia to the best of their ability, we're still under a curse, and we will not be removed from that curse until Yeshaya comes back, right? Yeshaya is going to take us. No one else, no man can tell you when it's time to go to Israel. Yeshaya is going to come back. Certain events have to happen before he comes back. A lot of people, like in Christianity, thinks that the tribulation is 7 years. 3.5 years of prosperity, 3.5 years of turbulence. That's a lie. And we're really going to see that lie when we teach next week. That is a lie from the pits of hell. They're trying to get you to be relaxed. Oh, 3.5 years of prosperity. No, the 3.5 years are going to be something that this world has never seen before. Right? So, when your child goes to school, do you care how the teacher sounds or if they learn something?
You should.
The teacher can sound very eloquent and be teaching your children destruction. So we know that we don't sound eloquent here. We know that we don't have glowing and flowing words. But are you learning something?
Right.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
Are you learning something? Are you learning something new every single Shabbat? That's what matters. Yeshaya is going to move his people. We're going to get our first scripture in Revelation, the 12th chapter. Yeshaya moves his people, not the other way around. People moving Yeshaya's people.
No.
Revelation, the 12th chapter, we're going to read verses 1 through 6. We're going to take our time with this lesson because this lesson is going to springboard what we're going to be teaching on for the next several weeks.
And we come here to learn something.
Right. We ain't come here to play with you.
Good bang. That was good.
All right, Revelation 12, 1 through 6. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared of the Gawal wonder in Shemaiah, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
All right, so we have taught on this lesson. We have taught on this scripture many a times. There was a great wonder in heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. We understand that the woman is Jacob. We know that the moon is the wives, and we know the 12 stars are Israel. Verse 2.
And she, being with bond, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And there appeared another wonder in Shemaiah, in Hannah, a Gadawa red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
All right, so we understand that the red dragon is the devil himself, and the 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns are Gentile nations.
Yes.
Verse 4.
And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of Shemaiah, and did cast them to the Aratai. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her bond as soon as it was born.
To devour the child as soon as it was born. Verse 5.
And she brought forth an Ayashban, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her bond was caught up unto her Ayawan and to his throne. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of her Ayawan, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
All right, so she brought forth a man-child in verse 5. That man-child we already know is Yeshua, to rule the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up and into his throne. And the woman fled to the wilderness. That's Israel going to the wilderness, where a place where Yeshua has prepared for her 1,260 days. That's 1,260 days in the wilderness, equivalent to 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeshua has prepared a place for Israel. Yeshua has, not elder so-and-so, not elder this one, not professor that. Yeshua has. The wilderness, as we have taught a few weeks ago, the wilderness is a place of safety. We're going to skip down to verse 13.
18.
We're going to read 13 to 17. We're going to skip down to verse 13, and we're going to read verses 13 to 17. Now, some of the scriptures that we're going to go through today, we have taught on these in the past within the last couple of weeks. But we must have a full circle understanding on what the scriptures are saying. Because in order for us to get a full understanding over the next several weeks on what we're going to be teaching, we have to understand the concept of wilderness, 1,000-year reign, New Jerusalem, wilderness, 1,000-year reign, New Jerusalem. We must understand that concept. We're not going to talk too much about the judgment seat of Yeshua or the great white throne judgment for a few weeks. And we'll tie this thing all together before we get to Passover. Let's read Revelation chapter 12, and we're going to start at verse 13.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the Aratai, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
And so the dragon, when he was cast into the earth, thrown out of the heavens, he started to persecute Israel. He started the persecution, and the persecution started in the garden. 14.
And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent.
All right, so she then was given 2 great wings. The wings that she was given is Yasha's power. It's Yeshua's power. that she might fly into the wilderness, that she may go into the wilderness to be nourished there. We're going to see what nourishment you're going to get in the wilderness for a time, times, and half a times. That again is 3.5 years. And we're going to see that again when we get to Daniel. From the face of the serpent. You're not going to have to deal with the face of the serpent in the wilderness. That's why we're going to see also that sin in the wilderness equates to death. Because you're not going to be in the face of the serpent. So if you're not going to be in the face of the serpent, who is making you sin? You are. It's not the devil anymore.
Yeah, can't blame him. Yeah.
You won't be able to blame the serpent. Well, the devil made me say that. You won't be able to do that. That's why when you sin in the wilderness, and we're going to show you the scripture, when you sin in the wilderness, instant death. Because the presence of Yeshua is going to be there.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that in the Bible. Verse 15.
And the serpent cast out of his paw Mayim as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Verse 16.
And the Aratas helped the woman, and the Aratas opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
So the Gentile nations are going to help Israel. They're not going to even know that they're helping Israel. Verse 17.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Ayawan and have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach.
He went to make war with the remnant of her seed. That comes later. Right after he is bound for 1,000, he's let loose. He's going to make a war with the remnant of her seed. These are not people who are going to be in the wilderness. These are people who make it out of the wilderness, out of the 1,000-year reign. Right after the 1,000-year reign is over, the remnant of this seed is Satan is going to try to make war with the remnant of this seed using Gog and Magog. This is not those who are in the wilderness. Those who are in the wilderness, they're not going to be the remnant of her seed. The remnant of her seed is the remaining people who make it out of the wilderness, who go into the 1,000-year reign, who are with Yeshua during that 1,000-year reign. And then from the 1,000-year reign, after Satan is let loose, Gog and Magog, that's when he's going to be wroth, and that's when he's going to make war. So we're going to show you saints. You will be tried, and it's not going to be easy. Skip over to the next chapter, Revelation 13. You're going to be tried. And it's not going to be easy. It gets easier as you go through. You become stronger if you are following the law, statutes, and commandments, if your heart is right for Yeshua. Right? So we're going to go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through 8. Revelation, the 13th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through 8.
I want to say something.
Sure.
Because, when we first came into this truth and I started hearing about the wilderness, and I'm like, man, I'm a city person. I wouldn't know how to survive in a wilderness. So I started looking at different videos on how to survive in the wilderness. But what I'm seeing, and I don't know if this have anything to do with it, but there's a lot of Gentiles on YouTube, and they're doing like how to, now some of our people is doing it too, but it's more Gentiles doing it, how to plant, how to garden, how to live off grid, completely 100%. They're showing how to live off grid. And that makes me wonder is that, yes, it's going to be Gentiles helping us, and Yeshua has prepared this place. The Gentiles will be helping us and teaching us how to live off grid as well. Because basically that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeshua's going to have everything prepared for us.
Right. And you don't think he will be using them? He will be having people to help out?
Well, let's see what thus saith the Lord says.
Okay.
We'll have that a little later.
Okay.
Right? Revelation 13, so hold that question. Revelation 13, we're going to read verses 1 through 8. And let's see something.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a Bama rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
All right, so we taught last week on the 7 heads, the 10 horns, and the 10 crowns. Okay, we talked about that in brief last week. We'll get into more detail on upcoming teachings. Verse 2.
And the Bama which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
All right, so up until this point, when we talk about the Gentile nations, they were separate. You had the lion, which represented Babylon. You had the bear, which represented Medo-Persia. We had the leopard, which represented Greece. But now these 3 nations are one. They are combined. And the devil gives them his power, his authority. The devil. Right? Verse 3.
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the Bama.
All right, so after that, we saw the heads, it were as wounded to death, right? 476 AD, the physical Roman Empire collapsed. All of a sudden, the deadly wound healed. The rising of the Roman Catholic Church. The deadly wound is healed. And we're going to see that also in Daniel. We're going to get an understanding when we get to Daniel. And we'll show how this wound was healed and what happened with that. Verse 4.
And they shook out the dragon which gave power unto the Bama. And they shook out the Bama, saying, Who is like unto the Bama, who is able to make war with him?
All right, so in Revelation 13 looks a lot like Revelation 12. Kind of sounds the exact same thing. And it says in verse 3 that all the world wondered after the beast. The world follows after the beast. How does the world follow after the beast? We'll get that in a minute. Verse 5.
And there was given unto him a paw, speaking great things and blasphemies.
Great things and blasphemies.
And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
3.5 years. Haven't read 7 yet. 3.5 years was given, the power was given to him speaking great things.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to connect him with Daniel.
So if a person don't make it into the wilderness, then this is what they have to go through. They're up against the devil, his power for these 3.5 years.
Those who are what? Those who
don't
are
make it into the wilderness.
outside the wilderness?
And don't
Yes.
take tomorrow.
We're going to see that.
We have a quick question.
Yes.
I guess they was really. Someone said, so do we need bug out bags?
No, you do not need bug out bags.
No,
You do not need bug out bags, right? Everything is going to be provided to you. We did a lesson a couple of weeks ago. Everything is going to be provided for you. The Gentiles are going to have everything laid out for you when the call of the wilderness happens.
You just answered my question.
So you don't need bug out bags. You don't need anything. Yeshua is going to provide a way. He's also going to provide when you're in the wilderness. He's not going to leave you hanging dry. We're going to see that a lot later.
You don't need no weapons or anything.
Correct. Verse 6.
And he opened his paw in blasphemy against Ha'ayalon,
Yes.
to blaspheme his name and
Yes.
his tabernacle, and them that dwell in Shemaiah.
All right, so he opened up his mouth. We have to ask ourselves, who is this person? And we're going to show you who this person is. Verse 7.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
So this person has power over kindreds, tongues, nations. He has power over the earth, over the world. This one person has power over the world. It's not a group. And we're going to show you this. We're going to tie this with and find out who is this individual. Yeshua even told us who he was. Verse 8.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him.
All that dwell shall worship him.
Whose names are not written in the book of the life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
So those who worship him, and it's billions, billions that worship him, shall not be written in the book of the Lamb, the book of life. They worship Satan. Yeah. Satan got thrown down, but Satan is the only one who said, I want to go to heaven. So if Satan is the one who started that, and his priests and his prophets mimic that same sentiment.
They do, don't they?
We want to go to heaven. We are going to heaven. We are going to be raptured up. His prophets and his priests dictate that same message that was spoken in Isaiah the 14th chapter with the devil himself. So this is why we need to understand this so that we can be set aside from this. Wondered after the beast, Easter. Wondered after the beast, December 25th. Wondered after the beast, Christmas service. Wondered after the beast, Lent. All of that is wondering after the beast. Ash Wednesday, wondering after the beast.
Sagging pants.
Huh?
Sagging pants. The fashion, the world fashion.
Oh, I was talking about religion.
Oh. But it's true, the world fashion, their clothes, their jewelry, their cars. That's the beast. Wondered after the beast.
All right. So the wound on his head, 475 AD, and that healed head is the resurrection of the Roman Empire under the new Caesar called the Pope.
Yeah, instead of Caesar.
It's not Caesar no more. Caesar was the physical Rome. The religious Rome, that Caesar is now called Pope. And we're going to show that in Scripture. Right? The beast is the EU. That's the secular part. You have to have the secular part. You cannot operate a religious institution without having some guns, as we saw with the Crusades. The Crusades in history was not about religion. It was about land. It was about money. It had nothing to do with religion. They just used religion as a front. That's it. The false prophet is the Pope. The saints, the woman seed that did not make it before the wilderness. How do we know? How do people know they're following the false prophet? Going to Sunday worship. This is how you know you're following the false prophet. Easter service. This is how you know you're following the false prophet. Eating foods contrary to the dietary law. Not being under elders. Not being called or chosen. Being called and then leaving Yeshua. That's how you know you are under the false prophet. All of Israel is not Israel. Nope. As we have found out not only in this ministry, but throughout lessons that we have done throughout this 10 or 11 plus years in ministry. Let's go to Matthew, the 24th chapter.
And we have experienced it.
When is all this going to happen? We're going to go Matthew, the 24th chapter. We're going to start in verse 1. We're going to read through 5.
You know that's my chapter.
Matthew, the 24th chapter.
Yeah.
We're going to read verses 1 through 5. Let's read.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 1.
Yes.
And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
Mm-hmm.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be?
When shall these things be?
And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
What shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?
Can I say something?
Right? We're going to teach on what is the end of the world. Yes.
So that's how we know when it says that there should not be left here one stone upon another. So that rock that wall that they bowing down to over there in Israel is not the temple. That's not the wall that was left from the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Because Joshua right here said nothing will be left.
Right.
So we know that's a lie over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to point that out.
Right. Verse 4.
And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you.
Mm-hmm.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many.
So Yeshua is warning us about elders and people who call themselves in the truth, and they are not in the truth. Yeshua is warning us, be careful. There are elders who speak eloquently on YouTube, has a bunch of followers, a lot of followers who follow them. And they are leading these people to hell. Israelite initials is what I call them. And they are leading people to hell in the droves. We're going to skip down to verse 15. Why is that? Because they're not teaching the truth and they are compromising.
Self-gain.
It's for their purpose. It's for their gain. We don't have a purpose but to get to the New Jerusalem by any means necessary. We don't have a gain but to get eternal life by any means necessary. This world cannot give us anything. It cannot give us anything, but it can build on our salvation, strengthen our salvation, strengthen our relationship with Yeshua.
By doing the works. Keeping our laws, yeah.
Matthew 24. We're going to read 15 to 18.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 15.
Yes.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the Kodash Bayah. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
All right, so the abomination of desolation, and a lot of Israelites, Christians definitely don't know who the abomination of desolation is. Maybe a very small handful.
When we was Christians, I had never even heard of it until you start teaching us.
We have to find out who is this abomination of desolation that Yeshua says that you're going to see. Spoken by Daniel the prophet. So that means, maybe we should go to the book of Daniel and try to find this guy. You don't have to, because we already have it. And we're going to bring that scripture up next. If you don't know Yeshua, you're going to be lacking knowledge. The abomination of desolation is the Pope. And the holy place that he's speaking of is the third temple. It's not Yeshua's temple that's going to be built. And we're going to bring that out later on in this lesson. We have to pinpoint the man of sin, the son of perdition, whom the Bible is speaking of, the abomination of desolation. And he said, spoken by Daniel. So we got to get Matthew. We have to tie Matthew with Revelation and tie Revelation with Daniel to get an understanding on who Yeshua is talking about. That's why he said, whoso readeth, let him understand. Verse 16.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his bayah.
So no bug out bags.
No bug out bags. Come on.
Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
Yeshua don't return until after the great tribulation. No rapture. We're going to stay in Matthew 24th chapter, and we're going to read 21 and 22. We have spoken on these scriptures before, but in order to speak on the wilderness, the 1,000-year reign, the New Jerusalem, we have to do a little recap. Matthew 24, 21 and 22. Read that.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
He said there shall be great tribulation, and it has not been seen since the beginning, not ever. And we have some lessons coming up to show you what's going to be happening with the great tribulation. Verse 22.
And except those Yawam should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
When Yeshua was speaking about in verse 22, no flesh shall be saved, there was not a weapon on this earth that can destroy all flesh. The biggest weapon that they had was probably the catapult. That was it. Bows and arrows, swords. That was it. They did not have nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are here now.
Bio warfare.
Chemical warfare.
Chemical, yeah.
They're here now. Skip down to 29.
Verse 29.
We're going to read through 31.
Immediately after the tribulation of those Yawam shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from Shemayim, and the powers of the Shemayim shall be shaken.
We already know that has not happened yet. 30.
And then shall appear the sign of the Ban Shal Ayash in Shemayim, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see Ban Shal Ayash coming in the clouds of Shemayim with power and great glory.
He shall come with power and great glory. The signs, all the tribes are going to mourn Yeshua is coming. Right? Because they're going to understand.
We know what's coming.
We know what's coming.
Yep.
We remember the deluge.
Mm-hmm.
We remember Benjamin going down to 500 people. We remember the 140,000 troops that were killed overnight by one angel. We remember those things. We've seen those things. We know what is about to happen. Verse 31.
And he shall send his malachs with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of Shemayim to the other.
He shall gather his angel. He shall send his angels with the sound of a trump. We already have identified that trump is the seventh trump. And he shall gather his elect from one end of the earth till the other. We already have tied that with the coming into the 1,000-year reign. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. We're going, before we get to the understanding of the wilderness, 1,000-year reign, and the New Jerusalem, we're doing a little recap first. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, we're going to read verses 1 through 9. Let's read.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1. Now we beseech you, Achaia, by the coming of our Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Hamashiach is at hand.
The day of Yeshua is at hand. The day of Yeshua is at hand. Don't be troubled. Don't be worrisome. Verse 3.
Let no man deceive you by any means, for that Yawam shall not come, except there come a falling away first.
Yes.
And that man of sin be revealed, a bond of perdition.
The man of sin be revealed. That's not the devil. The son of perdition. That is not the devil. And a lot of people think that that's the devil, that the devil's going to be exposed. No, that's not Satan. Next verse.
Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called Hayawan, or that is worshipped, so that he as Hayawan, sitting in the temple of Hayawan, shewing himself that he is Hayawan.
That's not the devil. That is the man of sin, the son of perdition. Verse 5.
Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things.
He told us that in Matthew the 24th chapter. Next verse.
And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time.
What he's going to do when he is revealed. Verse 7.
For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way.
Verse 8.
And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Right?
Even him whose coming is after the working of Shaitan, with all power and signs and lying wonders.
All power, signs, and lying wonders. Yeshua cannot come today. And we know that Yeshua cannot come today. There's things that have to be happened. The man of sin must be revealed. Right now, the man of sin is worshipped. Right now, the man of sin can do no wrong. The man of sin can say and do whatever he wants. And the world worships and bows down to him. The man is trying to change the Shabbat. He changed it from Saturday to Sunday thousands of years ago. And now he's trying to change it from Sunday to Monday now. He's changed the dietary laws. He opposes the royal 10. Yeshua is going to remove him.
And he's for child sacrifice because to Moloch, because he agrees with abortions. He agreed with birth control.
And the Bible is against birth control. And it's against passing your children through the fire.
So he worshiped Moloch.
Not that hard to comprehend when you open your eyes. We're going to go to Revelation 11. Revelation 11, we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 11, verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and Hamalak stood, saying, Quawam, and measure the temple of Ayawan, and the altar, and them that shaka'ah therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months.
40 and 2 months again. 3.5 years. This is not this temple. The temple is not the same temple that the abomination is going to rule in for 3.5 years. Okay. Let's see something. We're going to go to Daniel 8. Daniel, the 8th chapter. And we're going to read verses 1 through 3, and then we're going to single out verse 5. Daniel 8, 1 through 3, and then we're going to single out on verse 5. Let's read.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Malak Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. All
right, so he says, I saw the vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan. We know that Shushan is in Persia. He saw that he was in Shushan. He saw this vision. Remember, he's in Babylon right now.
Right.
Verse 3.
Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and Hanah, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last.
All right, so he said he saw this ram. And this ram had 2 horns. One horn was higher than the other horn. Skip down to verse 5 and let's read verse 5.
And as I was considering, Hanah, an he-goat, came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
The goat had a notable horn. So this ram that he saw was Medo-Persia. This he-goat, we need to identify who this he-goat is. The he-goat had a notable horn. So let's stay in Daniel 8, and we're going to go down to verse 7. And we're going to read verses 7 through 11. Daniel 8, 7 through 11.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 7. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with the collar against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his yard.
None that could deliver the ram. We said the ram was Medo-Persia. So the he-goat would have to be Greece. But hold that thought for a second. Read verse 8.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. For it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
All right, so we already know the 4 notable ones are the 4 generals. That the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. We know that great horn is Alexander. Okay. Then came the 4 generals, and through the towards the 4 winds of heaven. Right. Now, pay attention. Verse 9.
And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them.
So in verse 9, the little horn exceedingly great is the start of the religion. It's the start of the religion, this little horn, to stop all things about Yeshua. This was the birth of the new Rome. Even though Rome is not really a power yet, we're speaking Greece. But we have a lesson called From Egypt to Greece to Rome. And we showed the connection between Greece and Rome. We showed the bond between Greece and Rome. The Grecians, Romans, same people, different names, right? Verse 11.
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Right? So we remember we tied this when we were doing our Hebrew Israelite language classes with the captive of Greece. And we talked about the Maccabees. And we talked about how with the Maccabees and how the Maccabees is sort of tied with Daniel, the 8th chapter. Okay. Let's read verses 15 and 16.
And it came to pass when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then Hanah, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision.
Daniel needed an understanding because he was living in Babylon.
And he saw himself in Persia. Yeah.
He needed understanding. Why would I? Now we know that Daniel eventually did see the Persian captivity, but right now he's in Babylon and he's not understanding. Persia is an up and coming power. They're up and coming at this point, but they have not taken over Babylon yet. Very soon they're going to take over Babylon because he's in the reign of Belshazzar right now. So we're going to skip over to Daniel, the 12th chapter. And remember in Daniel 8 and 9, it says a little horn, exceedingly great, came out of those 4 generals. Daniel 12, we're going to read verses 4 through 7. Let's read it.
Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
Yes.
Then I, Daniel, looked, and Hanah, there stood other 2, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river.
Yes.
And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders?
Now, remember in Matthew, the 24th chapter, they asked Yeshua, how long is this going to happen?
Yeah.
When is it going to happen? And what shall be the sign of your return? This man who's clothed in linen upon the waters of the river, one of the angels said to the other, how long? Read verse 7.
And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and in half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished.
This is prophecy.
Yes.
He said that, swear by him that liveth, a time, times and half, 3.5 years again. And it shall be accomplished to scatter the power of the people, of his holy people, scatter them abroad. All these things shall be finished when they are brought back together.
Yes. Yes.
The man in linen. When shall be these wonders? Let's go back to Daniel, the 8th chapter. And let's see if what I said was correct. Daniel, the 8th chapter, we're going to read verses 20 to 25. Let's read that. Daniel 8, 20 to 25.
Daniel, chapter 8, verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the Malaks of Media and Persia.
Media and Persia. We know that Medo is Russia, and Persia. 2 horns, right? One a little bit above than the other. Verse 21.
And the rough goat is the Malak of Grecia.
Greece.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is first king.
The first king, which is Alexander. 22.
Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 Malakawats shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
Not in his power, not in Alexander's power. These 4 generals. Verse 23.
And in the latter time of their Malakawat, when the transgressors are come to the full, a Malak of fierce countenance and understanding great and dark sentences shall stand up.
24.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Remember, I said that Rome, the Empire of Rome, is not really talked about just yet. It's talking about Greece. Someone is going to come out of Greece, and that someone is Rome. Remember, Rome and Greece had a bond.
They worked together.
They worked together until Rome turned on the Grecians. But there's going to be someone. And in verse 24, this man will have knowledge and power to lead people to destruction. And we got to find out, how is he going to do that? Where in the Bible does it say that? Read verse 25.
And through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his love, and by peace shall destroy many.
Yes.
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
He shall be broken. Eventually, the Pope, which is whom this is talking about, the Pope, through his policy, shall craft to prosper in his hand. The richest person on this earth is the Pope. Period. And magnify himself in his heart. He calls himself God on earth. And by peace shall destroy many. They're being destroyed. You're going to see a lot of people destroyed tomorrow when they go into the synagogues of Satan, the Roman Catholic churches. They're never having 5 and 6 people in Catholic Mass. There's hundreds in Catholic Mass. He shall destroy many, and by peace. He's not sitting up there saying, I am the devil, worship me. He's not saying that. He's not saying that at all. We're going to go to Revelation, the 6th chapter. Where does he get his power? Where does he get his power? Revelation 6, we're going to read verses 1 and 2, and then we're going to read verse 8. Well, maybe he's in purgatory. Revelation 6, Revelation 6, 1 through 2. Read.
Revelation chapter 6, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see.
Now, we already know that the seals have all been broken. There is not one seal that has not been broken. All the seals have been broken. We have a teaching on YouTube about Revelation, several teachings about Revelations. The seals have already been broken. And this is how we know why. Read verse 2.
And I saw in Hannah a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
A lot of people have the misconception by saying this is Yeshua, when it's not. It's the false prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Because later on in Revelation, it does talk about him coming back on a white horse. This one is the false prophet. He has to be on a white horse because he has to appear like he's pure. But the Bible says he had a bow and a crown, and he went forth to conquer. Skip down to verse 8, and this is what he brings. Verse 8.
And I looked, and Hannah a pale horse, and his sham that sat on him was death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth.
With the beasts of the earth. The beasts of the earth are Gentile nations. So the Pope was given, it looked the pale horse. And this pale horse is death and hell. And the fourth part of the earth to destroy, to kill. How does that happen? Sunday worship. How does that happen? Kissing the Pope's ring. How does that happen? Easter Sunday. All the doctrines that were created by the Roman Catholic Church, and the daughter follows that, and that daughter is Christianity. We're not going to get in that too much because we're saving that one for a future lesson. Let's go to Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14. And we're going to read verses 1 and 2. All right, let's read.
Zechariah chapter 14, verse 1. Hannah, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Yarowashalim to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the bayats rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city.
So the day of the Lord, Yeshua returns. The spoil in verse 1 are people being hurt. Wanted to show that really quick. Let's go back to Revelation 16. Revelation 16, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. Revelation 16, and we're going to read verses 15 to 21. We're going to get to the wilderness. We're going to get to the 1,000 years, and we're going to get to the New Jerusalem. Revelation 16, 15 to 21. Let's read it.
Revelation chapter 16, verse 15.
Yes.
Hana, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame.
Now, when he says, I come as a thief, it's to those who have no knowledge and wisdom, because they're not keeping the garments righteous.
So he's not coming to steal anything.
No. It says, I come as a thief. You don't know when a thief is coming.
Yeah.
But if you don't have knowledge and understanding, you're going to be caught up. Verse 16.
And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon.
World War III. 17.
And the seventh Malach poured out his violence in the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven, from the throne saying, it is done.
It is done. 18.
And there were voices, and thunders, and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great.
So mighty an earthquake and so great. Destruction. When it talks about the earthquake, it's talking about Armageddon. It's talking about World War III. Thunders, lightnings, great earthquakes, bombs dropping all over the place.
Bombs in the air.
Destruction.
Mm-hmm.
That's what. Remember, John did not see airplanes. John did not see tanks. John did not see huge bombs being dropped. He didn't see all this. So what did he have to equate to this? Thunder and lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Great earthquake. When bombs hit, the earth moved.
Mm-hmm.
There was no bombs in John's day, but he's seeing all this. 19.
And the Gadol city was divided in 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon came in remembrance before her Ayawan, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath.
The cup of the wine, the fierceness of his wrath. The cup, the great abominations that the whore has. The Roman Catholic Church. It says Great Babylon. That's Rome. That's the Vatican. That's not America. Verse 20.
And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of Shemayim.
Mm-hmm.
Every stone about the weight of a talent.
Every stone, the weight of a talent. Bombs. Keep going.
And men blasphemed Hayawan because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great.
Biological warfare. This is what John is seeing. Great destruction in those 3.5 years that Christianity says is peace. See how the daughter of Babylon is leading their people to hell? There's not going to be a 3.5 of peace and then a 3.5 of destruction.
And they're saying that because they're saying 7 is going to be complete.
That's the idiocy of Christianity.
And that's what we used to believe. So when we came to the truth, when the Holy Spirit brought us into the truth, we went through 5 months of deliverance from this. Because we lived this. We thought couldn't nobody tell us nothing differently. So we went through 5 months of where we were literally throwing up like dirty water. Because reading and accepting this doctrine, it brings unclean spirits, unclean things into your body. So if you're in any type of religion, you must go through deliverance because you have picked up demons. You picked up spirits from believing these words.
That's right. Let's go back to Zechariah 14. And we're going to read verses 3 through 13.
I wanted to be raptured up so bad. And then I believed I was going to be raptured up and I wouldn't have to go through the 3.5 years of bad things that was going to happen on the earth.
Zechariah 14, we're going to pick it up at verse 3.
Zechariah chapter 14, verse 3. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle.
Verse 4.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
You won't be raptured up. Keep going.
Which is before Yahweh on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south.
A great battle, World War III. Keep going.
And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains. For the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee, like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, Malach of Jehoiada. And the Lord my power shall come, and all saints with thee.
And all saints with thee. Verse 6.
And it shall come to pass in that day, that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day, which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light.
Evening time it shall be light, right? What can light up the sky at even time when it's dark? And it shall be light. Boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
8.
And it shall be in that day that living water shall go out from Yahweh, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be.
Verse 9.
And the Lord shall be Malach over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one.
Right? So it's talking wilderness to the 1,000-year reign, but we're going to break this down. Keep going.
All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Yahweh. And it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place. From Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel unto the Malach's wine presses.
Right? Keep going.
And Ayash shall dwell in it. And there shall be no more utter destruction, but Yahweh shall be safely inhabited.
Shall be safely inhabited. See, it's talking about the wilderness, talking about the 1,000-year reign, talking about the wilderness, talking about the 1,000-year reign. We're going to separate this and we're going to understand what thus saith the Lord is telling us. 12.
And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Yahweh.
See that? That part there is the end of the 1,000-year reign. He's not going to smite them beforehand. Keep going.
Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth.
Biological warfare.
And that's what those movies, The Terminator, is about.
Correct. Right? Verse 13.
And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them. And they shall lay hold every one on his hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor.
So we must warn the people. Israel is not safe. Yeshua has to come first before all this happens. And it says only one name will rule. That's Yeshua. He's not going to rule in the wilderness. He's going to rule during the 1,000-year reign. So all of this in Zechariah, the 14th chapter. We need precepts for all of this that we talked about in Zechariah, the 14th chapter. Before we get those precepts, well, let's get one of them now. Malachi 1 and 11.
I have a question. When they're talking about the plains, so that means, can we go back a couple what talks about the plains? Like something will happen with the earth, and then right there, 10.
Mhm.
All the land shall be turned as a plain. What does that mean? Like the land will be flat? You said this,
Says it shall be as a plain. Plains are flat,
right.
right? Jerusalem, Israel, is a mountainous area.
Yeah,
So all of it's going to be flat.
flat. Okay.
This is the destruction that's going to be forth. The earth is not going to be seen as it's seen now because of all the destruction that the nations are going to do against each other. Meaning the EU against Russia, China, and Iran.
So when all the bombs and everything that's going off,
Correct.
the land, the mountains are gonna be.
Just look at old videos of World War II. Not necessarily World War I, but look at World War II. Not necessarily Vietnam, but check out what cities was looking at, and then afterwards what they look like.
Like what happened to Japan? What's that city?
Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
Check a look at what happened to those cities when the atomic bomb was dropped, or the atomic. When the atomic bomb was dropped on them. Look at the city before and look at it afterwards. It's destruction, and that's what the Bible is saying. There's going to be utter destruction that has not been seen before. Yes.
And they have videos on the atomic bomb when it was dropped.
Right.
And then you could see like when it dropped, all that wind pushed it, all that force, and everything was ripping off the scene. Like it was bad.
Correct. And that's just from one atomic bomb. There's nuclear bombs all over the place. They say that no, there's an arms race and there's really no weaponry, when in fact that is a lie. Every powerful country has nuclear weapons. Every powerful country has nuclear weapons.
They also put it in the movies.
Right, the movies just tell you a precursor of what's going to happen.
Yep, in that movie X-Men, when at the end they had all the nations, they were sitting around, and there was somebody in there trying to make them make all the nations send out all their atomic bombs to start a war, and all of them went into the air and was getting ready to come down, but then that's when the X-Men saved the day.
There ain't gonna be no X-Men. Let's put that out there. Let's go Malachi 1 and 11.
Malachi chapter 1, verse 11. For from the rising of the sun, even unto the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles. And in every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering. For my name shall be great among the heathen, saith the Lord of hosts.
All right, let's go over to Revelation 19. And we're going to read verses 6 through 9. Remember in Zechariah, he says only one name shall rule. So let's identify this. Revelation 19, and we're going to read verses 6 through 9. Okay, let's read that.
Revelation chapter 19, verse 6. And I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia. For the Lord power omnipotent reigneth.
The Lord power omnipotent reigneth. 7.
Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him. For the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready.
We're going to see when that's going to happen. Verse 8.
And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white. For the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints.
Righteousness of the saints, right? Verse 9.
And he saith unto me, Write, blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of Yahuwah.
These are the true sayings of the Most High, right? Let's skip down to verse 12. We're going to read verse 12.
His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself.
No man knew but he himself. Yeshua is the Lamb. And marriage is when he comes. The bride, us, we have to be dressed right. And we have to keep our vows with him in order to make it to the supper. What are our vows? The royal 10. Those are our vows. We have to keep those. If not, we're not going to be dressed properly. And if we're not dressed properly, we're going to be bound up and cast into outermost darkness, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Let's go Isaiah 16. Yes.
So it makes sense that in the New Jerusalem, that Yeshua is going to get a new name. Because in the New Jerusalem, there will be no need for a Savior.
Correct. There's not going to be a need for a Savior in the New Jerusalem. So everything is going to be changed. Our names are going to be different. Everything is going to be different. But you have people who want to miss out on it. Isaiah 16, we're going to read verse 1, and then we're going to read verse 5. All right, let's read it.
Isaiah chapter 16, verse 1. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Salah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the Banat of Taziyawa.
Right, send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount, the daughter of Zion. Skip down to verse 5.
And in Kasad shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of Dawad, judging and seeking judgment and hasting righteousness.
Hasting righteousness. Let's get an understanding. Let's go to Hosea, the 2nd chapter. Difficult scripture, and then follow it up with the explanation of what it's saying. Hosea 2, we're going to read 14 to 20. Hosea 2, we're going to read 14 to 20. All right?
Hosea chapter 2, verse 14. Therefore, Hannah, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her.
I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness. You, Israel. Verse 15.
And I will give her her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
No need for bug out bags. 16.
And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Bali.
You will call me husband. Verse 17.
For I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name.
No more remembrance of the former life. 18.
And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of the heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely.
We will be in safety. Verse 19.
And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness,
Righteousness.
and in judgment,
Yes.
and in loving kindness, and in mercy.
So if he's going to be with us in the wilderness, we have to be in righteousness, in judgment, in loving kindness, and in mercy. If we're not operating in those, I'm going to show you, the Bible is going to show you what's going to happen. Verse 20.
I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord.
You shall know the Lord. Skip down to verse 23 and read 23.
And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have kasad upon her that had not obtained kasad. And I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people. And they shall say, thou art my God.
So that includes the Gentiles, right?
Exactly.
So he is doing the same things as the man-child. He is going to start marriage in the wilderness. The marriage starts in the wilderness. The courtship starts in the wilderness.
So that has not taken place yet.
No.
So while people say, I'm married to the Lord.
Well, you can say that, but the real work does not start until the wilderness. Right now, you're trying to keep your garments from being defiled.
So when it said, and there will be Gentiles as well, because there will
Right.
be Gentiles helping us.
Mhm.
So that would be like when what's her name? The harlot.
Rahab?
Rahab. When she hid the spies. The
Mhm.
spies.
Spies.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to
And
be
her
the same
family
thing.
was saved.
Correct. So like we always say, the Bible only gives us, if you want to know what he's going to do, read on what he did. It's going to be the same thing, but on a bigger scale. Like we said with the Exodus, I believe it was last week. The Exodus was just a precursor for what's going to happen on a much bigger scale when we're called into the wilderness. So he's going to make everything. He's going to make a new covenant with animals. We have already said, and we've shown this, that we're going to go back to being vegetarians as we were in Genesis 1 and 31. So get to enjoy your vegetables now. Because if you have a craving for meat, the Bible's going to show you on what's going to happen.
A lot of Israelites is turning into vegetarians.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are stopping eating meat. Oh my goodness, you know how much money we'll save if we don't eat meat?
Let's try it.
There's people who try to, I'm 3/4 vegetarian, or I'm 3/4 vegan.
What?
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, see, if you have the love for Yeshua, you don't have to sit there and program yourself to be a vegetarian now. You love Yeshua. When you get to the wilderness, you're not going to have all that.
You know exactly what he is.
One person
Correct.
said that she was trying to, she made a covenant or a vow to the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
fasting from meat. So like she only ate chicken on the Shabbat.
But that's me.
Yeah, like she fasted, but she like the way she fasted was like she only ate chicken. She didn't eat it during the week. She just ate it on the Shabbat.
What was the point? That makes no sense.
I
The
guess,
thief cometh.
And so we had a lady in this ministry, and she saw this documentary on, I guess, like what they do to animals. And so
Probably Forks and Knives.
No, that didn't show. It was like a documentary on how they slaughter animals.
Wow.
So she came to the ministry and she was crying and was telling us we need to be vegetarians. And everybody was like, well, you can be a vegetarian because we don't eat our meat. And she got mad with everyone. And then I think after like 2 weeks, or maybe even a week, she was back eating meat as well.
Right. That's emotional.
It was very emotional.
Let's go to Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. And we're going to read verses 34 to 38. Ezekiel 20, 34 to 38. Let's read it.
Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 34. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty yod, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out.
So he's going to bring us out of the countries, and there's going to be some things that are going to be happening while he's bringing us out. Just like in Exodus, when he brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, he brought them out with a mighty hand, pulled back the waters, collapsed the waters on the Egyptians when they tried to come against our people. He defeated the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Jebusites. He defeated all these people while we were in the wilderness. Same thing's going to happen. That's why the devil is going to be wroth before we get into the wilderness. And then wroth afterwards when he's set free after the 1,000-year reign. He's going to be wroth and make war against the children of Israel.
And so we know that the Bible talks about hell. It don't talk about how you just go there and sit around. So Satan is in hell and for 1,000 years. He would just not be sitting around idle. You don't think he would be tortured? He would be...
No.
You don't think he's going to be dealt with?
No. That doesn't happen to the lake of fire.
Oh, okay.
It just says he's going to be bound.
Okay. Like the angels are bound.
Correct.
Okay.
They're not being tortured or anything that I know of. I haven't read a scripture.
The Bible doesn't say that about them.
Right.
It just said that they're
bound. 35.
And I will bring you out into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
We're going to see what that means. 36.
Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord.
Now, can we get a Strong's Concordance? And let's look up Ezekiel 20 and 36, and let's see what that word plead means. Well, we don't have it out. No, go ahead. I'll finish this up. Verse 37 says, and I will cause you to pass under the rock, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. And I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Sorry.
So in Ezekiel 20 and 35, he says, I will plead with you face to face. Ezekiel 20 and 36, like I pleaded with your father, I will plead with you. What is that word plead?
H8199.
Mm-hmm.
The transliteration is Shaphat.
Uh-huh.
And it means to judge, govern, vindicate, punish,
Mm-hmm.
to act as a lawgiver or judge or governor,
Mm-hmm.
to rule, to decide controversial, condemning and punishing, to enter into controversy, plead, have controversy together.
Nowhere does it say plead mean beg. It's punishment.
It says, for grammar, to judge, pronounce sentence, for or against, by implication to vindicate or punish, by extension to govern, avenge, that condemn, contend, defend, execute, be a judge, needs, plead, reason, rule.
Kill. Kill. That's what he did in the beginning of the Exodus. That's what he did in the beginning of the Exodus when he drew them out. Most of the conversations that Moses had was not in the mountains, but in the wilderness. Yeshua is bound by whatever he says. If he told you, I will deliver you, you got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. We're going to go to Numbers 14, yes.
Earlier, you brought up that, or you showed in Revelation, how Satan is like that. The wilderness is a safety, right? And so he's not going to be able to come in or, influence people or tempt people to sin.
Right.
So when people go into sin in the wilderness, it's because they want to. So is that where that plead comes to? Where he
That's part of it.
With you face to face?
That's what we show part of it, but we're going to get more into that later on. Because we're going to get to the actual scripture where it says, not good to sin in the wilderness. Right? A lot of people will make it. Only a few will make it out. This whole world is but a few, but something, whatever that song says. Let's go to Numbers 14. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. Yeah, I know, I butchered the song.
This world is for many, but the next is for you.
Yeah, that's it. Let's read Numbers 14. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. Numbers 14. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. Let's read it.
Numbers chapter 14, verse 1. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the Ban, Shal, Yasharallah murmured against Masha and against the Harawan. And the whole congregation said unto them, would Ha'ayawan that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would Ha'ayawan we had died in this wilderness.
Right? You're going to get people who are going to be saying that in the wilderness. I had it better in Chicago. I had it better in Topeka, Kansas. I had it better in Nacogdoches, Mississippi. I had it better. Right? Verse 3.
And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our bonds should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt?
I don't want to be here no more. I want to go back to Israel. I want to go back to Boston. I want to go back to Miami. I want to go back to Los Angeles. I don't want to be in this wilderness no more. Verse 4.
And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return into Egypt.
This is when people are going to be falling dead. Verse 5.
Then Masha and Aharawan fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the Ban Shal Yasharallah.
All you have to do, if you want to know what Yeshua is going to do, look at what he did. Skip down to verse 29, and we're going to read 29 and 35. All you have to do, if you want to know what Yeshua is going to do in the future, look at what he did in the past. He's not going to change. The things that he did in the past, he's going to do it in the future, but understand it's going to be on a much larger scale.
That's right.
Right. Those people, 3.5 years. Numbers 14, 29 to 35.
Numbers chapter 14, verse 29. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me. Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb, Haban of Jephunneh, and Joshua the son of Nun.
It says, doubtless you shall not come into the land. Listen to that, verse 33.
But your little ones, which he said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have despised. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness.
So it says, your little ones, your little ones which ye said shall be a prey. Remember, the babes, when the babes go into the wilderness, they're not going to have all this Israelite doctrine all over them. They're just going to be, they're new. When you're a babe, you're new. And when you're a babe, all this stuff is just fresh. Those who've been in this truth for a while, they're going to be all grizzled up and all up. Correct. Verse 32.
But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness. And your bonds shall wander in the wilderness 40 years.
Right, we're not going to be in the wilderness 40 years this time around. Finish the verse.
And bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness.
What's your question?
So if some people have kids who, like young little kids who make it to the wilderness, but the parents don't, who's gonna
take care of those children?
Correct.
They're not gonna.
That's gonna be a lot of people.
Right.
How do they go get to the
verse 34.
After the number of the days in which ye search the land.
Now, hold on. Remember when the scripture says that I'm going to pull you out, but you're not going to get in. So if you have infants, if you have toddlers, remember the scripture said, I'm going to pull you out of the four corners of the earth, and you're not going to make it into my wilderness, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. At that point, their children are going to be taken from them.
So you just a shelter.
Finish the verse, please.
Even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise.
Right, that's a good question, because how is it that what is going to happen to the infants and the toddlers and the ones who are, let's say, under the age of 10 or whatever? Their parents are still going to get them there, but their parents are not going to make it. Verse 35.
I, the Lord, have said, I will surely do it unto all this evil congregation that are gathered together against me. In this wilderness they shall be consumed, and there they shall die.
Yeshua and the church will come out of Israel together. No one will enter the land until Yeshua finishes teaching in the wilderness. If you come from under the bond of the covenant, you will enter Jerusalem and the temple. Yes.
That makes, Amuna's question, that makes a lot of sense, because when children are brought to the wilderness and parents don't make it, Yeshua put a spirit on that child to, not be crying and everything when their parents is gone, but, to just automatically go with them. Because remember, before I was put out, what was the prophecy I was given? That my children, that another man would come and that my children would not remember me. And Yeshua will put a spirit on them.
Correct. Same thing. Let's get Isaiah 54.
So if you have somebody coming to the wilderness and they got a baby and they can't get in, you could have somebody beside them and they just grab the baby, or can you take my child?
It's going to be distress. It's going to be distress.
You can't even imagine going all that way, thinking you're going to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get there, you can't get in.
Denied.
You cannot imagine seeing everybody go and you're just standing there, you can't get in. That's going to be like, people may be having heart attacks, panic attacks, like people going to be freaking out. Because no matter what you do, you can't get in.
You can't get in.
So
You're shy and stopping.
Yep. All the things that the elders tried to teach you and show you and pray for you, and you didn't listen.
So no wonder he's getting us right now. So that's not the case.
No, because we have a job to this ministry was already shown and told what we will be doing in the wilderness. And that's why Yeshua deals with us the way we do, the way he does. Because we're not going to go and just be relaxing. Because like Shepherd was saying, there's going to be not, when he say babes, it's just not young people. It's going to be people, babes, as in this truth that makes it. But they still going to have to know. Don't think that we're not going to still be knowing our Bible, because they still have to be taught this. We still have to have a word. So people are still going to be teaching, like even Moses. He got the commandments, but he was still teaching them. They had to know how to live. They have to know how to do certain things.
Right.
So it's still going to be the work. The work of Yahshua still is going to be going on in the wilderness.
We're going to see something else with that too later. Let's read Isaiah 54. We're going to read verses 1 through 7.
Isaiah chapter 54, verse 1. Sing, O barren, that thou didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with bond. For more are the bond of the desolate than the bond of the married wife, saith the Lord.
More people that are sinners than those that are serving right. Verse 2.
Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes.
What's going to happen? Keep going.
For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited.
Come on.
Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood anymore.
You will not remember it. Verse 5.
For thy maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and thy redeemer, the Quadawash one of Yasharal. The power of the whole earth shall he be called.
Yes, verse 6.
For the Lord hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit.
Yes.
And a wife of youth, when thou wast refused, saith thy power.
So, once again, you were refused by people. You were rejected by people. But he accepts you.
That's right.
He will accept you into his 1,000-year reign. Verse 7.
For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee.
Small moment he has forsaken you. You were a sinner once before, weren't you? But then great mercy, he will gather us. Let's go to the Song of Songs, and we're going to go chapter 8. Song of Songs, or a Song of Solomon. Chapter 8, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. All right.
Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 1. I wot that thou wert as my ox, that sucked the breast of my Amma. When I should find thee without, I would kiss thee. Yea, I should not be despised.
Verse 2.
I will lead thee and bring thee into my Amma's house, who would instruct me. I will cause thee to drink of spice wine of the juice of my pomegranate.
All right, he's going to take care of us when he calls us into the wilderness. Skip down to verse 5 and read verses 5 through 7.
Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised thee up under the apple tree. There thy Amma brought thee forth. There she brought thee forth that bare thee.
There, those who is this that cometh up into the wilderness? Those that lean upon Yeshua. You understand and listen to what the Holy Spirit is telling you. Verse 6.
Set me as a seal upon thine law.
We're going to see that seal in Revelation. Keep going.
As a seal upon thine arm.
Mm-hmm.
For Ahava is strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which have the most vehement flame.
Uh-huh.
Many waters cannot quench love.
Yes.
Neither can the floods drown it.
Mm-hmm.
If a man would give all the substance of his bayat for Ahava, it would utterly be contemned.
It will utterly be contemned. If a man would give all his substance, all his work for love. Let's get into this doctrine. Ezekiel 43. Ezekiel 43, we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Everyone should be concentrating. Everyone should be focused on the Bible. Everyone should be concentrating and everyone should be focused on the Bible.
He's like, what?
All right, Ezekiel 43, we're going to read verses 1 and 2.
Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 1. Afterward, he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looketh toward the east. And Hana, Hahawad of the power of Yasharallah, came from the way of the east, and his voice was like a noise of many waters. And the earth shined with his Hawad.
The earth shined with his glory. Skip down to verse 4, and we're going to read verses 4 through 7.
And the Hawad of the Lord came into the Bayat by the way of the gate, whose prospect is toward the east. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and Hana, Hahawad of the Lord, filled the Bayat. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the Bayat, and the Ayash stood by me. And he said unto me, Ban Shal Ayash, the place of my throne, and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the Ban Shal Yasharallah forever, and my holy name shall Bayat shall Yasharallah no more defile, neither they nor their malaks by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their malaks in their high places, in their setting of their threshold by my thresholds, and their posts by my posts.
Verse 7, just stop at 7.
Oh, sorry.
Right. So since Yeshua will be with us in the wilderness in spirit, any sin is worthy of death. Any sin is worthy of death. Let's go over a chapter to Ezekiel 44, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. And let's see it. Ezekiel 44, 1 and 2. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 1. Then he brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looketh toward the east, and it was shut.
Shut in the wilderness. Verse 2.
Then said the Lord unto me, This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord, the power of Yasharallah, had entered in by it, therefore it shall be shut.
So Yeshua has entered also into this. and it's shut. The wilderness is now shut. Nobody else can get in. No one else can get out. Right?
Oh my goodness, that's what my dream was about.
Um,
I had a dream that we all had on fringes, and it was a big gate, and we were running, like people was running to get to this gate. The door was letting down, and people was running to get into it. We were running, me and the two girls, we were running, because we were sitting in the Christian church, and there was a woman preaching. And I said, this not right. I said, this is false doctrine. I said, let's get out of here. And when we started walking, people had on all white with gold fringes. And I was like, hey, where are you all going to worship? And and there was this Judah girl, and she pointed, and it was a huge white gate. It was a big white gate. But as she was telling me, she was running. So we didn't know, we just took off running too. And when we got there, we had to duck down to get in the gate because it was almost closed.
It says y'all barely made it.
We barely made it because we were sitting in the Christian church listening to false doctrine. Yeah, we barely made it. Wow.
Let's see the end of the wilderness. Let's go to Ezekiel. Let's stay in Ezekiel 44, and we're going to read verses 5 through 9. Ezekiel 44, and we're going to read verses 5 through 9.
Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 5. And the Lord said unto me, Ban shall Ayash, mark well, and Hannah with thine eyes, and Shemaiah with thine ears, all that I say unto thee concerning all the ordinances of the Bayath of the Lord, and all the laws thereof, and mark well the entering in of the house, with every going forth of the sanctuary.
Verse 6. And
thou shalt say to the rebellious, even to the Bayath shall Yasharallah, thus saith the Lord power, O ye Bayath shall Yasharallah, let it suffice you of all your abominations.
Suffice you of all abominations. Verse 7.
In that ye have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart, and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my Bayath, when ye offer my bread, the fat and the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations.
Verse 8.
And ye have not kept the charge of mine holy things, but ye have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for yourselves. Verse 9. Thus saith the Lord power, no stranger, uncircumcised in heart, nor uncircumcised in flesh, shall enter into my sanctuary of any stranger that is among the bond of Yasharallah.
End of the wilderness. Separation. 2/3 are going to die.
Wow.
Let's get a preview of the Holy Temple in the 1,000-year reign.
Man, people need to stop playing with Yeshaya.
Right.
He ain't nothing to play with.
Let's go to Ezra 1. And like I said before, you want to see what he's going to do? Go to the past. Ezra 1, we're going to read verses 1 through 5. Ezra 1, 1 through 5. Okay, let's read.
Ezra chapter 1, verse 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, Malach of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, Malach of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his Malachawah, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, Malach of Persia, the Lord power of heaven hath given me all the Malachawas of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a Bayath at Yarwashalim, which is in Yahwadah. Verse 3, who is there among you of all his people? His power be with him, and let him go up to Yarwashalim, which is in Yahwadah, and build the Bayath of the Lord power of Yasharallah. He is the power which is in Yarwashalim. And whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, beside the freewill offering for the house of the power that is in Yahuwah. Verse 5. Then rose up the chief of the Abbas of Yehoiada and Benjamin, and the priests and the Lewiah, with all of them whose spirit Haayawan had raised, to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Yahuwah.
To build the house of the Lord, right? Whenever you want to know about the future, all you got to do is look at the past. We're going to tie this with Yeshaya's temple. So who's going to construct it? We're going to go to Ezra, the 2nd chapter, and we're going to see in verses 1 and 2. Ezra, the 2nd chapter, verses 1 and 2. Okay, so let's read that.
Ezra, chapter 2, verse 1. Now these are the bond of the province that went up out of the captivity, of those which had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, Hamalak of Babylon, had carried away unto Babylon, and came again unto Yahuwah and Yehoiada, every one unto his city.
Verse 2.
Which came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reliah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigbai, Rehum, Baana, the number of the men of the people of Yasharal.
Okay, that Mordecai is not Mordecai from Esther, right? So what will happen next? Go over to Ezra 3, and we're going to read verses 8 and 10. Ezra 3, verses 8 through 10. Let's see what's going to happen after that. Go ahead.
Ezra chapter 3, verse 8. Now in the 2nd year of the coming unto the Bayat of Haayawan at Yahuwah, in the 2nd one began Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and the remnant of their brethren, the priests and the Lewiah, and all they that were come out of the captivity unto Yahuwah, and appointed the Lewiah from 20 years old and upward to set forth the work of the house of the Lord.
Set forth the work of the house. Start building up the house. Verse 9.
Then stood Jeshua with his sons and his Achiah, Kadmiel and his sons, Habans of Yehoiada, together to set forth the workmen in the house of Haayawan, the sons of Henadad, with their sons and their brethren, the Lewiah. And when the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, they set the priests in their apparel with trumpets, and the Lewiah, the sons of Asaph, with cymbals, to praise the Lord after the ordinance of the Wad Malak Shal Yasharal.
So the same thing is going to happen again, right? The same thing will happen again. Yeshaya will get praised for laying the foundation. Let's go to Zechariah, the 4th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Zechariah 4, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. And we're going to come back to Zechariah. We're going to go out of it, and we're going to come back. Zechariah 4, 1 and 2. Let's read.
Zechariah chapter 4, verse 1. And Hamalak that talked with me came again and waked me as a man that is wakened out of his sleep, and said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and Hannah a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof.
That's right. So when the Bible talks about the eyes of the Lord, it's speaking of the spirits of the Lord. They, along with a resurrected Zerubbabel, will build the temple that Yeshua will rule in. So hold that and go to Revelation, the 4th chapter. We're coming back to Zechariah 4. Hold that, go to Revelation 4. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. And then we're going to come back to Zechariah, the 4th chapter. Let's read Revelation 4, though, first.
Revelation chapter 4, verse 1.
Yes.
After this I looked, and Hannah, a door was opened in Shemaiah. And the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will shew thee things which must be hereafter.
Verse 2.
And immediately I was in the spirit, and Hannah, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald.
Yes, verse 4.
And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Pa'ayawam.
The 7 spirits, right? The 7 candlesticks, the 7 lamps, 7 spirits. Okay, let's go back to Zechariah and let's tie this together. And we're going to read verses 5 through 10. Zechariah 4, 5 through 10. And let's tie that with Ezra, the 2nd chapter as well. Let's read that.
Zechariah chapter 4, verse 5. Then the Malak that talked with me answered and said unto me, Knowest thou not what these be? And I said, No, my Lord. Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Who art thou, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel thou shalt become a plain, and he shall bring forth the headstone thereof with shoutings, crying, Grace, grace unto it. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying,
Saying what?
The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hand shall also finish it. And thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you.
You shall know it when you see Zerubbabel and he is doing the temple again. Verse 10.
For who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice and shall see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7. They are the eyes of the Lord, which run to and fro through the whole earth.
Remember, the eyes of the Lord are the spirits of the Lord. The temple will be rebuilt. Then, once the temple is rebuilt, something has to happen. Our bodies need to be refined. This is pulling us out of the wilderness into the 1,000-year reign. Malachi 3, verses 1 through 4. Like I said, we've had these scriptures before, but now we're tying these scriptures together to get the connection from the wilderness to the kingdom. Malachi 3, 1 through 4. Let's read.
Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. Hannah, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in, Hannah, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap.
Yes.
And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Lewiah, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness.
You cannot offer into righteousness until you are refined. That happens before you get to the 1,000-year reign. This refining is taking place in the wilderness, because once you get to the 1,000-year reign, you are refined. Your bodies are changed. Verse 4.
Then shall the offering of Yahweh and Yahweh be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old and as in former years.
Let's get ready for the 1,000 years.
All right.
Oh yeah.
We're going to go to Isaiah, the 49th chapter. Isaiah 49, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10.
Is that refining part on her? Because going through deliverance hurt now. Oh, extra project.
I didn't say that. Isaiah 49, we're going to read verses 1 through 10. 1,000-year reign. Let's read.
Isaiah chapter 49, verse 1. Listen, O isles, unto me, and Shemai, ye people from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb, from the bowels of my Amath hath he made mention of my name. And he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me, and made me a polished shaft.
Yes.
In his quiver shall he hid me.
In my mouth he made my mouth like a sharp sword, bringing the word. A shadow in his hand. He made me a polished shaft. Right? He raised me up to speak his words. Verse 3.
And said unto me, Thou art my servant, Abba Yasharallah.
Thou art my servant. Go ahead.
In whom I will be glorified.
Yes.
Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught.
Yes.
And in vain.
Yes.
Yet surely my judgment is with the Lord.
Yes.
And my work with my power.
With my power. Come on.
And now, saith the Lord that formed me from the womb, to be his servant.
Yes.
To bring Jacob again to him.
Bring him again.
Though Yasharallah be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord. And my power shall be my strength.
Verse 6.
And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Yasharallah. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth.
Verse 7.
Thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Yasharallah, and his Holy One, to him whom man despiseth,
yes,
to him whom the nations abhor,
yes,
to a servant of ruler.
yes,
Malak shall see and Quwan.
yes,
Princes also shall shakah.
yes.
Because of the Lord that is faithful, and the Holy One of Yasharallah, he shall choose thee.
He shall choose thee. Verse 8.
Thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee.
Yes.
And I will preserve thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritage.
Yes.
That thou mayest say to the prisoners, Go forth. To them that are in darkness, shew yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst.
Yes.
Neither shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that hath kasad on them shall lead them. Even by the springs of water shall he guide them.
There you are. 1,000-year reign.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
1,000-year reign. We got more. Revelation 7. Revelation 7, we're going to read verses 1 through 4. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their forehead.
Got to be sealed by the power of, you have to have the power, the seal of Yeshua on your forehead. Verse 4.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the bond shall Yasharallah.
All right, we're staying in Revelation. We're staying in Revelation 7. If John the Baptist had baptized in the wilderness, then there had to be a lot of water there, right? Where people can enter. The water would reach the waist. So therefore, the use of the word wilderness is not a desert place like the Sahara Desert. Instead, it's like a county or woods far away from any cities. It would be difficult to travel. It's not easy unless you have Yeshua on your side to get there. Skip down to verse 13, and we're going to read 13 to 17.
Revelation chapter 7, verse 13. And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest.
Revelation 7 and 13.
Verse 13. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they?
Well, come on.
And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of Ha'ayawan, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them.
In the 1,000-year reign, come on.
They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more. Neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of water.
Living fountains of water is New Jerusalem. Keep going.
And Ha'ayawan shall wipe away all tears from their eyes.
All tears from their eyes. When Yeshua was thrown out into the wilderness in Matthew the 4th chapter, it wasn't by the devil, it was by the Holy Spirit. The wilderness will help us to interpret what's happening to us. The wilderness will either make you, break you, mold you, fill you, or kill you. Let's see the New Jerusalem. Let's go back to Ezekiel 47. And we're going to read verses 1 through 13. And let's start with talking about the temple in the 1,000-year reign. Let's go.
Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 1. Afterward, he brought me again into the door of the Bayah, and Hannah, waters issued out from under the threshold of the Bayah eastward. For the forefront of the Bayah stood toward the east, and the waters came down from the right side of the Bayah at the south side of the altar.
Right, verse 2.
Then brought he me out of the way of the gate northward, and led me about the way without unto the utter gate by the way that looketh eastward. And Hannah, there ran out waters on the right side.
Right? It's talking about the temple in the 1,000-year reign. Verse 3.
And when the Ayasha had the line in his hand went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits. And he brought me through the waters. The waters were to the ankles. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The waters were to the knees.
Knees, come on.
Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through. The waters were to the loin.
It keeps going up and up. Keep going.
Afterward, he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass over. For the waters were risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed over.
All right, listen to this, verse 6.
And he said unto me, Bond of Ayash, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river.
The brink of the river.
Now when I had returned, Hannah, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other.
Now we all understand and know this is not actually talking about the river, it's talking about people. Multitudes of people. Verse 8.
Then said he unto me, These Mayam issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed.
Waters don't need to be healed. People need to be healed. Verse 9.
And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the river shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither. For they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh.
Wow, we're getting understanding now. It goes from the temple to now the New Jerusalem. Verse 10.
And it shall come to pass that the fishes shall stand upon it from En-Gedi, even unto En-Eglaim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. But the miry places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt.
Given to salt. So there's also
So what is that saying?
the great white throne. Right? Verse 12.
And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed.
No more death. Come on.
It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary. And the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine.
13.
Thus saith the Lord Power, this shall be the border, whereby he shall inherit the land according to the 12 tribes of Yasharallah. Yawasab shall have 2 portions.
2 portions. Skip down to verse 21, and we're going to read 21 to 23.
So shall ye divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Yasharallah. And it shall come to pass that ye shall divide it by lot for inheritance unto you.
Yes.
And to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget bond among you. And they shall be unto you as born in the country among the bond of Yasharallah. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Yasharallah.
Verse 23.
And it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourneth, there shall ye give him his inheritance, saith the Lord Power.
We get back the inheritance of what we lost. Yes.
I'm going back to that last verse where it says, the stranger sojourneth. Is that talking about Gentiles in a certain tribe, or was that?
No, the Gentiles that were with us. It says that in what tribe the strangers sojourned. Strangers are Gentiles, not Gentile. When we think of Gentiles, when we speak of Gentiles, Gentiles are people who are sinners. We're talking blood. Okay? So when we get back, we will get back the inheritance that we lost. So let's see the reverse of Deuteronomy 28, and let's go to Isaiah 65, and we're going to read verses 17 to 22. So let's see the reverse of Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, with Isaiah 65, 17 to 22. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17. For Hannah, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind.
Yes.
But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For Hannah, I create Yarowashlim a rejoicing, and her people a joy.
New Jerusalem, come on.
And I will rejoice in Yarowashlim, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying.
He will rejoice finally. It's just like when Josiah will rejoice with Israel finally. Verse 20.
There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed.
Verse 21.
And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them.
Verse 22.
They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of the tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands.
See that? In Deuteronomy, it said something different with the curses. So this is a reverse of those curses when we get to the New Jerusalem. Skip down to verse 23, and let's read 23 to 25.
Verse 23, They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them.
Yes.
And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will shema.
Yes.
The wolf and the lamb shall feed together.
Yes.
And the araya shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my Kodash mountain, saith the Lord.
This is the New Jerusalem. Lamb and wolf eat and feed together. This is the New Jerusalem. Everything goes back. We will not be eating and killing animals. Animals will not be killing each other. Remember, this is not the wilderness, because the wilderness, these beasts, the wolf, the lion, the serpent, they're going to be separate from us. This, we're going to be together. You can have a pet lion and a pet calf right next to each other, and they are not going to the lion's not going to try to eat. You can have a lion and a gazelle next to each other, and the lion is not going to look at the gazelle like a meal. Yes.
Don't you think that would be a sight to see a lion eating grass or straw?
Well, I'm sure they do it now. I don't know. I guess so. Zechariah 8. That's our last scripture. Is it? Zechariah 8. We're going to read verses 20 to 23. Yes, it is. Zechariah 8. We're going to read verses 20, and I know I got 21 up here, but we're going to read verses 20 to 23. Okay, let's read.
Zechariah chapter 8, verse 20. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, it shall yet come to pass that there shall come people, and the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, let us go speedily to pray before the Lord, and to seek the Lord of hosts. I will go also. Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Yarowashlim, and to pray before the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is an Israelite, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that thy power is with you.
Right? So think about this. Which one of the pagan gods of the nations ever wanted love of their followers? None. Which one of them asked, do you love me?
No.
What false gods don't want our love, right? They want our fear to be slaves to them. But Yeshua wants our love, freely given, and enjoy a relationship with him. That's what the New Jerusalem is about. If we miss this, we miss the heart of Yeshua, and we will miss the kingdom. Next week, Daniel. Right. That's going to conclude our lesson for today. We have any questions on the chat? Join us. Our next time we will live stream will be Wednesday, 9 p.m. with our language class. Thursday, we will be back with our our language class on Wednesday. On Thursday is Purim. Friday is Purim. And then the Shabbat lesson, 70 weeks. So we want to say thank you all for joining us on live stream. We'll just sing like we used to, Psalms 1 through 3. And then we'll have our ending song, the docile tones of Shepherd Tuah.
Oh, really?
Psalms chapter 1, and we'll just read 1 through 3. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But in his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night.
And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper.
All right, so I want to thank you all for joining us on live stream. Enjoy the rest. Oh wait, we gotta sing our song. Keep falling in love with him.
Yeah, slow down.
Over and over again. I keep falling in love with him. Over and over and over and over again. It gets sweeter and sweeter as the day goes by. Oh, the love between my Lord and I keep falling in love with him over and over again.
All right, so we give all the glory and praise to Yeshua, Hamashiach, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you for joining us on this holy day that the Lord had made. Go ahead.
If you have enjoyed this lesson and have found it educational, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for future teachings. Also, hit the bell to be alerted when another teaching comes live.
All right, we will see you all Wednesday at 9 p.m. Kwam Yashra.
Kwam Yashra.